average, very predictable text, which is, by design, what these chatbots generate. Harrison said that her business hasn't been affected and that, she's been using these tools. They've actually made her a better writer.
I just don't think there's any room now for mediocre, lazy copywriting. We have to be able to distinguish ourselves from ChatGPT.
Still, Harrison, she's been in the business for 20 years. And when she thinks about younger workers just trying to break in, she acknowledges, things could look very different.
Marketplace Tech host Megan McCarty-Carino, thank you very much.
Thanks, David.
And this special series from Marketplace Tech, AI on the Job, is now available at marketplace.org or wherever you get your podcast. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
Wayne Hogan of the Terrell Hogan Law Firm.
I'm Wayne Hogan. The Move Over Law protects police, fire, EMS, utility, and sanitation personnel by requiring drivers to move over and slow down for their vehicles.
Learn more at waynehogan.law.
Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com.
North Florida TPO, proud sponsor of WJCT's First Coast Connect, bringing to the community innovation in transportation planning, commuter services, clean fuels, and intelligent transportation systems. More at northfloridatpo.com.
This is WJCT News 89.9 in Jacksonville. Ahead in the next 5 minutes, live local news for the First Coast from the WJCT News team.
On the independent 89.9 HD4, we're providing a platform for music discovery that's free from the algorithms that push listeners toward the squishy middle of sameness. We're playing new music from non-commercial artists, handpicking each song with care because we really do care. And we believe that music discovery unlocks the potential of music to move and inspire. Dig in deeper with us on 89.9 HD4, the WJCT app, or on jacksmusic.org.
Hear from some of the biggest newsmakers in the community on First Coast Connect, where we discuss the issues and stories that affect your life across the First Coast. We also ask for your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Engagement is what drives the show. So engage with us right now as we get started here in just a few minutes on First Coast Connect.
Good morning. It is now 9:01. I'm Stephen Ponson. The Jacksonville Children's Chorus will be traveling to the United Kingdom this weekend for the International Children's Choir Festival. As WJCT News 89.9 Joshua Pantero reports, the choir will be performing through the 29th of this month.
The Jacksonville Children's Chorus will perform at Canterbury Cathedral and Southwark Cathedral from the 24th to the 28th. This year's summer tour will include workshops, concerts, and tours of many historic sites like Windsor Castle and the Tower of London. Darren Daly, president of the Jacksonville Children's Chorus, said he has been looking forward to this trip.
I'm very excited about this tour. I've been wanting to go to the UK for a very, very long time. We've traveled quite a bit over the last 16 years, mostly in Europe. But to travel to the UK, where there's a rich history of choral music, is something that I've hoped for many, many years.
The Children's Chorus will be performing at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City in December, as well as Puerto Rico at a festival next year. The Children's Chorus is also asking for financial support. Daly said that about 30% of the kids are usually on scholarships, and going into their next season, they'll need help from the community. Joshua Pantano, WJCT News 89.9.
Next month's reenactment of a 2018 mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, will use live ammunition. The reenactment is part of a civil lawsuit filed by victims' families against former Broward Deputy Scott Peterson. A key issue in the lawsuit is what Peterson could hear during the Valentine's Day shooting when a lone gunman killed 17 people and wounded 17 more with an AR-15 style rifle. The reenactment is scheduled for August 4th. Today it's going to be hot. Highs near 98 degrees. An excessive heat warning is in effect from 10 a.m. until 9 p.m.
This is WJCT News 89.9 in Jacksonville. Opinions expressed on the Friday Media Roundtable are those of our panelists and do not necessarily reflect the views of WJCT News.
Hey, it's Al Letson, and you're listening to First Coast Connect. We've got a full show today, so let's get to it. Some of the items on menu for our Friday Media Roundtable. Vice President Kamala Harris heads to Jacksonville to discuss the state's new academic standards for African American history. Mayor Donna Deegan presents her first budget. And the Sheriff, T.K. Waters, holds his first town hall meeting. Then later, we have a real kicker. Jack's USL is looking to score in St. Johns County. Note, I did not write that copy. That was written by our super producer in there, Heather. Oh, excuse me. No, Heather told me she didn't actually write that. That was written by Stacy the Brain. So there you have it. But this hour, it's our Friday news roundup, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of puns kicked around. Okay, that was mine. I can own that. With me today is Randy DeFore, regular contributor and former city councilwoman. Hello, Randy.
Hello, good morning.
And Mike Mendenhall of Jacksonville Daily Record. Mike, how you doing?
Good, Al. Good to be with you.
All right. Ben Becker of Action News Jax. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Glad to be here.
And last but definitely not least, Jack Webb, regular contributor and former city council president.
Great to be here, Al.
Great to listen. This is the first time I've met all four of you. That's a rarity. Usually, I know at least one or two people, but all of you are new friends.
Awesome.
All right. So when are you all taking me out to eat?
After the show.
After the show, exactly.
That's what happens when you meet new friends. You take Al out to eat. I'm just saying. All right, so you can listen live on the radio or watch our video streaming right now on Facebook and on YouTube. You can see all these beautiful people here with me. You can call us at 549-2837. You can tweet us at FCC On Air. Email us at firstcoastconnect@wjct.org or message us on the First Coast Connect Facebook page. So let's get into it. Mayor Deegan presents her first budget on Monday. What do you guys think? I'm looking specifically at you, Mike. First budget.
Well, when the mayor's budget address and the documents that were released, we're looking at a $1.75 billion city budget. It's an increase over last year. I believe former Mayor Curry's final budget was $1.55 billion. But you're also looking at a $406 million capital improvement project. Those are your roads, your streets, your bridge repairs, drainage, infrastructure, all sorts of things. So what really stood out to me when I was looking at particularly the CIP was actually from a business lens was the $21 million to fix the city's permitting system. Right now, we're looking at a slowing economy, and Mayor Deegan and her staff clearly want to try to keep development moving. And there's been complaints for years of the slowness of the city's building permit situation. It's hard to get projects going quickly, which is something that I think that the mayor really wants to bring forward. There's also $60 million for downtown infrastructure projects. You're looking at over $30 million for new fire stations around the city, and a lot of money for resiliency projects to try to mitigate flooding due to sea level rise.
And Randy, as a former city councilwoman, you've seen this process before. Yes. This budget is really kind of like picking up where the last mayor left off, right?
It really is. And yet Mayor Deegan added her own priorities, and permitting was one of them. I think it's an incredibly good budget. I went through it last night just to double check, what I'm seeing, and what I thought was impressive with a $64 million pay-go. So that means that is cash. That's cash towards infrastructure. And we can, all thank our real estate taxes for this huge increase in the budget. But as a former city council person, the one takeaway that I had, in addition to the fact that she's really dealing with blight, the mowing, the sidewalks. When I came on to council, they had $3 million for the entire city for sidewalks, and that's been up to $13 million. That's a huge increase. So her focus seems to be blight and resiliency, and the permitting. But from a council person perspective, the fact that she had $3 million contingency for council was huge. That means she's really working with the council. I can tell you that on council for the last 4 years, we did not have $3 million in contingency.
Jack, what do you think about it?
I concur. It's kind of like I'm impressed with she kind of superimposed her own message, her own personality on a budget that was pretty much already constructed. It's kind of like coming in as a first-year head coach, Division I. You know, you're inheriting all the players from the previous coach, so it takes a while to really get moving. But no, I think it was really interesting. I like the fact that she put another $9 million into the Emerald Trail. I like the fact that the city's stepping up. Randy, you get this as well because you're an attorney. Jacksonville Legal Aid, which has never been a priority for for any administration, as far as I can see. Well, I will say this: it's really fun to be the mayor when times are good because you don't have to worry about the millage rate, coffers, you get new construction revenue, off taxes, off whatever, and the property values are going up. So, make hay while the sun's shining.
Yeah, but the good times won't last. Like the bad times always come back.
That's why the budget stabilization fund needs to be replenished.
Yeah. Ben, what do you think about the speed in which an incoming administration has to adjust to everything around them? It feels to me like I did not know this before, but the fact that she did the inauguration, became the mayor, and then 2 weeks later she has to present a budget, that just seems impossible to me.
Well, it does seem impossible, and Randy probably could speak to it because City Council eventually votes on this stuff. And Randy, you went through the whole budget yesterday, a light read, I'm sure. But yeah, it doesn't seem like this is the way it should be. Like, you're put in a position to take on a budget that you may not necessarily agree with. And I don't know per charter if that could be changed, or the Charter Revision Committee, which meets once every 10 years, could look at that, but that wouldn't be until 2030. So that is something that we'd have to look through. Randy, you know this again better than I do. Is there something that could be done before then, in your opinion, or is that something that we'd have to wait, another 7 years?
I think it's not something that can be addressed immediately.
When we went through this, Ben, you make a great point, really, because it doesn't make sense. You got a bunch of newbies coming in city council. I think you got 3 rookies on the finance committee, right?
Yeah.
And this is sipping water from a fire hose. Same thing with the mayor. Mayor's coming in. And what reason it's like this, because the budget process is mandated by state law, whereas our local elections, because we just got a funky system of government, we have off-cycle elections. There's been repeated attempts to kind of true it up and move the local elections to November, whether on the same year as the major elections or off year. But it's really, really hard to get it done because no mayor wants to do whether it's a 5th budget or a 9th budget. They don't want to go through that process. So that's one of the challenges that we face as a city.
But one of the problems is, as you said, drinking water out of a water hose. It's a $1.7 billion water hose, and there should be more time to evaluate that.
And there's no way rookies can come in and understand, as you know, Randy, can't understand the enterprise funds and things of that nature and really what goes into the budget. It's very, very difficult.
Well, that's why
good.
That's why she used Mike Weinstein.
Absolutely.
So that was a smart move on Mayor Deegan's part to keep someone from the previous administration on to help her with that process.
Yeah. Do we think we are in a little bit of a honeymoon phase between the mayor and the city council?
I think that's a possibility, but I also think too, that Mayor Deegan kind of lucked out in the way that she got city council president is for her first year is Ron Salem. Ron Salem kind of has a history of being being cordial and trying to work with council with people of the other party on particular issues. So I think that's helpful. But you definitely saw, like Randy mentioned, the $3 million for the city council contingency. That was a request by the city council president. So she's clearly making those kind of overtures. You heard in her speech, she dropped it was kind of a small joke anecdote, but she mentioned Vice President Randy White during the budget process gave her access to his snack drawer, and so it's those kind of little things that you can tell she's really trying to cultivate relationships. Randy White, if history serves, will likely be the next city council president. That's typically how it goes. There's a succession there, so she's trying to create those relationships. So in the future, when that honeymoon phase is over, that she could still have those relationships. And in the coming years, she's going to have really tough budget things to deal with, like a possible $800 million to $1 billion stadium, a deal with the Jaguars. So those are the kind of issues that that she's in this budget, trying to soften and prepare for.
Randy, can you walk me through the process of, so she has presented this budget, it goes to the city council. What happens next?
So it goes to the finance committee. I sat on the finance committee a couple of years. I'm sure Jack did as well. And they go literally line by line through the budget to approve it and ask questions about it. It's a deep dive. And so it's going to be interesting. The thing that I'm curious about is that Ron Salem has Nick Howland ahead of the finance committee, and Nick Howland is known to be very partisan. We saw that in the last election. We saw some of the antics that were done as related against Leanna Cumber by Nick Howland. So I don't know. I hope they're going to play nice, but I'm not fully betting on that. I think they're gonna give her a little bit of a hard time on some of her administrative hires to see if put maybe some of those staff members under the line. We'll see.
Yeah, Jack. If there is tension with the budget, what does the city council, what power do they have to stop this budget going forward?
Well, you can do anything you want with 10 votes. Is what it comes down to, right? It will come out of the finance committee modified. There's no doubt in my mind, given the constitution of the finance committee. So you ask about a honeymoon. Yeah, there's a honeymoon, but it may be short-lived, at least with regards to the finance committee. But that said, as Randy mentioned, a lot of these priorities may be either eliminated or put below the line. That is for full consideration by the full council when the budget it comes out of committee and goes to the council for debate. That said, I would look, if there is a lot of partisan politics being played at the finance committee level, look for a lot of floor amendments when it comes before the full council, and that's when it gets hairy. When I did the budget my year as president, I think I think it was a marathon session, went over 36 hours. And we actually had to, we were all delirious, and we had to shut it down at 4 o'clock in the morning and come back 3 hours later to get the thing done. So it could be something like that.
And I think there's a honeymoon period, and I think it's over in 3, 2, 1. Some of the people I've spoken with on council, there's some consternation already about the DEI position that was created as part of the administration, and I would imagine there's going to be pushback on that, if nothing else.
You can join the conversation at 549-2937. You can tweet us at FCC on air, First Coast Connect at WJCT.org, and you can hit us up on Facebook, all the ways. And we're also streaming on YouTube. You can see all the beautiful people around these microphones. Do you have something?
Nope.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were putting your hand up. So if the honeymoon is over, as Ben would point out, what can we expect to see as far as specifically with the DEI? What do you guys expect to see happening in the city council?
That's a great question. Again, I remember back in the day, every year we had argument after argument about the Checks for the Human Rights Commission. Okay, and why do we have this? Why do we have this? Now, it's kind of died down over the last few years, but I think a lot of the DEI, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Office, they're going to be questions. Is this redundant? That's I believe where Nick Howland is going to attack this thing. What is this entity doing? Why are we funding it over here? So I think that's really where it starts. And the good news is they got a lot of money to spend. That makes a lot of things a lot easier.
Yeah. So it feels like talking about DEI issues is a good segue to talk about the Department of Education and their changes in curriculum and what the standards that they've put out for African American history. And just to kind of sum it up, they basically are taking the stance that slavery was good for a lot of African Americans, which as the only African American on this panel, I think I'm okay to say that I really disagree. I digress from that. But they did make a statement about the changes that they were making. Every standard, benchmark, and benchmark clarification was developed using methodical process within our group. Our work group began in February and worked through May to ensure new standards provide comprehensive, rigorous instruction on African American history. We proudly stand behind these African American history standards. There have been questions raised about language within a benchmark clarification standard, a lot of numbers that I'm not going to read, which says instruction includes how many slaves develop skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. The intent of this particular benchmark clarification is to show that some slaves developed highly specialized trades from which they benefited. This is factual and well documented. Some examples include blacksmiths like Ned Cobb, Henry Blair, Lewis Latimer, John Henry, shoemakers like wasn't John Henry like a fictitious character that like fought the train? I don't know.
Yeah, I think railroad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they name off a lot of names. Booker T. Washington is one of them, and I guess their stance is that because you were enslaved, separated from your people, your children were sold off from you. You did not get paid for your work. The benefit of that is that you came out with a skill. I would say that's the a good way to sum up their stance on it. What would you, the panel, think about all of this?
Everyone's speechless, I think.
Yeah.
The question I have is there no depth to the level as dystopia that we can sink to in the state of Florida?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. I'm going to, my caller just went away. Yeah, I think that what they are aiming for, or what we have seen in the moves that the DeSantis administration is to basically sort of separate us from our actual history and create this sanitized version of it that we can tell to people in schools, which also means that if we are successful in doing that, positions like DEI or diversity and inclusion, like they don't feel as necessary if you don't quite understand the history and the context. I'm going to take a caller. We've got Doris McNeil. Doris, how are you today? Keep it brief and keep it on topic.
Hey guys, it's Charlie, and from the beaches. I just wanted to say, if I understand correctly, Jacksonville was named after a person who owned slaves. George Washington owned slaves. Thomas Jefferson owned slaves. And if Jacksonville, if I'm correct, was named after a person who owned slaves, I would be more than happy to change the name of our city.
Thanks for that call. You guys got any comment on that?
Well, I do. I don't want to see the name of our city changed. I mean, I think that we're Jacksonville. We have our own identity and history, and I don't want to see our city change its name.
And that said, the name Jacksonville will provoke discussion of that history as well. The
Sure.
good, the bad, the ugly, the
Right.
pretty, right? Which
Right.
is what the state standards are eliminating, arguably.
Yeah, I would think that like changing the name of a city, I mean it's all a very tricky place to be, right? But I think that if you keep the name of the city, you have to honor the history that came with it, right? Like we
Right.
can't look past it. We have to like look it in the face and say this is what it is.
Own it.
Hey, own it. I many years ago, I did a little documentary on the fight to change the name of Nathan Bedford Forrest High School to Westside High School. And this was like when the attempts were failing. And I talked to some young black students at then Forrest High School. And the black students, like 3 or 4 of them said to me that like, if they named the school after Nathan Bedford Forrest to basically spite me as a black kid, I'm going to succeed in this school and show everybody that like, you tried to hold me down, but you were not successful. And I think that like I think about that quote from him all the time when we're talking about, both the monuments, the name of the city and all of that. Like, how do we take the past and contextualize it to today and understand that like there are some things that like, I just think that the idea of changing the name of Jacksonville probably is not going to fly, but I could be wrong. But the idea that we should honor the history that is tied into all of that and really look at it for everybody. We're going to take a caller. We've got William on the south side. Go ahead, William. Please keep it on topic and keep it brief.
Okay, thank you. I'm a retired teacher, and my area of focus was on STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And the conversations now about African-American history, I wanted to know each of your opinion, if possible, about not just a discussion on slavery, but also the accomplishments of African-Americans in Jacksonville and in our area that were successful in STEAM careers. There should be a conversation that extends beyond just slavery, but also what has been achieved culturally and how the contributions have helped Jacksonville and Florida and the nation grow. Because after a while, young people are going to get tired of hearing about slavery, but they want to hear about the contributions that were made and the significant gains of what African Americans, Hispanics, and other cultures have contributed to. And in my opinion, this really needs to be a focus as well, because it shows the benefits of a proper education and a guidance to careers that are profitable in helping the country grow and helping our city grow.
William, thank you so much for that comment. Panelists?
I love that comment, William, because I totally agree with you. We have an exceptional history in Jacksonville from an African American standpoint. When I think about it, I think of music. I don't know STEM. I don't know that as much, but that's how horrible that I don't know that. So let's talk about it and let's celebrate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a cumulative effect, right? I mean, you promote you promote and talk and celebrate the accomplishments of people in the Black community and in our minority communities, but at the same time you also have to acknowledge the gray of history and how some of the leaders of this country, they did own slaves, even though we laud them for some of the ideas, some of the foundational ideas that they put in this country. But we have to acknowledge, we have to do both. We have to acknowledge the atrocities that went along with a lot of things they do. So if we don't do both, then we're just gonna then we lose.
And what better example of the accomplishments of African Americans than Kamala Harris coming to Jacksonville today? I mean, there's a huge example there of something to celebrate and someone who's come and set an example.
And Kamala is here specifically to actually talk about, according to the White House, that she is here specifically to talk about these changes in education, but also, other issues when it comes to African Americans in the state. I'm wondering, do you think like her coming is going to engage, activists and people to just get involved in this fight and try to make sure that these changes don't go into effect?
I would hope so. But I think people, whether or not Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, comes to Jacksonville or not, I think that it's incumbent upon people to, if she's a catalyst, to get more people out there to rock and roll and put pressure on the state. That's great. But even if she were not present, I would hope that there's a groundswell of opposition to this, as again, dystopian direction again that we're taking at the state level. Although at an administrative level, I don't know what remedies there are. I mean, we don't have a legislature anymore. Let's face it. All right, we really don't. We've got one branch of government in this state, and it's all controlled by the executive. All right, so, but bring it.
Yeah, there's 2 points I would like to make on that. Number one is with Ron DeSantis running for president, if he's not successful, I'm willing to bet that the legislature will not fall in line as much with him once he comes back, because at that point he's a lame duck, and I think they will get more out of line than where they are right now. Secondly, with Kamala Harris coming to town, I think also there's a political play here, because as we know, there's an election coming up in November of 2024, and Duval went blue for the first time in 2020 since Jimmy Carter in 1976. In 76, it went blue primarily because of Carter being from Georgia. So the fact that it went blue for Biden in 2020 is notable, and I'm sure they want to keep it that way because Florida, if you're a Democrat, you want to make sure to keep that in play, although it's gone more red in recent years. It's important to be able to take Duval and help win the state of Florida, and I think that's also something to take into consideration today.
And to expand on what Ben was saying too, I mean, you're coming into a community that just elected a Democratic mayor, so I mean, so that makes a lot of sense. And you also, the Duval County school system has a lot of challenges, and you also have a teacher shortage in here. I know, or in Duval County, you have a severe shortage in Black and brown teachers as well, to try to bring some of that equity. So I think that those are all things that the vice president could come in here and highlight. And in Jacksonville in particular, is an area where I think that there is a lot of activism in Florida that is kind of coming against a lot of these education initiatives coming out of Tallahassee.
And speaking of the school system, we're just talking about Duval County school system where a black female superintendent just got pushed out. And if you want to look at it through a racial lens, and considering some of the policies coming out of Tallahassee, it could be troubling as well. Especially with the way the state has viewed Duval County going back to COVID and some of the other things since then.
One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is that it feels like the moves that the DeSantis administration is taking are sort of like throwing red meat to their base, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm curious if you all think that will backfire on them in the sense that, like, this move to kind of rewrite history, when people hear about it, they get enraged and they want to engage. The movement to restrict abortion and to control, people's bodies. I think, one side of it is cheering it on and saying that's great, and then another side is enraged and moving towards, which, I wonder if that makes Duval blue, but also makes the rest of the state a little bit more purple.
Yes, I think I am just scratching my head on DeSantis' moves. I really am, because remember, DeSantis won Duval in his last election, and he won supposedly on the exit polls. He won it from the African American women who wanted charter schools. So this change approach, what he's trying to do is get rid of Trump, and I don't think it's working at all.
I don't think it's working on a national level. I wonder, do you think it is not working on a state level as well?
No, I don't think it's working at state level at all. I think he's lost votes.
I'm with Randy on that. I marvel at why has he not just trashed his entire staff and started all over again, if it's not too late already, because it's not, even if it works in Florida and he carries Florida, and I don't think it will, I agree with Randy, it's not playing on a national stage. It's not even playing to the Republican base because they're still enamored with Donald Trump. That begs the question, if you really want to run for president, why don't you get back home and fix the insurance issue, right? Why don't you do something that actually means something to the average Floridian, right?
Yeah,
and I think that's going to become a national issue, particularly once we get to the debates and the GOP primary. I think that's an issue that they're going to hit him on. Is you've got skyrocketing insurance rates in your state, and you're out on the campaign trail instead of taking care of your voters. I think that's going to be something that, especially the people that are trying to get into that second place row in the GOP primary, I think that's where they're going to hit him.
What was his comment? What was his comment when farmers pulled out of the state of Florida? Knock on wood, babe. We don't get a hurricane, and then it'll come back.
And that won't play well in Iowa either.
Thank you very much for your leadership, Governor DeSantis.
Yeah. It feels like DeSantis, I don't know, and you all tell me, but it feels to me like what he is riding on, his anti-woke train, so to speak, he actually really believes it, I think. I think that he thinks that that's going to move numbers.
I don't think he really believes it. I think he thinks he's going to move numbers.
That's what I mean. I don't think he actually.
No. Go back to his first term in office. He was incredible. He really was. He was a moderate governor that took on resiliency and the Everglades. He did an amazing job that first term. He really did. If he just had stayed true to who he was, I think he would win the whole nation over. But instead, he's listening to political consultants. They're telling him that his biggest rival is Trump, and he's got to take the Trump voters, and it's not going to work.
No, and also, I don't think that Trump is actually going to be in a position to win the nomination, given all of the indictments coming down. Listen, Trump has always figured his way out of a lot of different things, but,
Yeah. I want to hog the mic here, but I'm going to go on a limb here and say that Ron DeSantis does believe what he's doing. I really do. I remember when I was in city council, that was when the Tea Party was really out of control, and they were coming at me 24/7, and simply because it was over taxes, everything else, right? But we did a lot of research on these groups that I was being targeted by at the time, and Governor DeSantis, his name popped up quite a bit. This is before he ran for office. So I think he came out of that re-election, thinks, I'm Superman, I'm invincible, I'm showing my true colors, and this is what I'm going to run on. rock and roll. That's why we're here.
Yeah. I don't think this is about beating Trump. I think this is about a waiting game and trying to stretch it to the fourth quarter and hoping that Trump can't run because of the indictments. And then at that point, he's the last man standing, and he's already staked out that far right field, and then can absorb the Trump voters who have no one else to vote for. I think that is where the end game can be. That's his only end game, I would think. Unless Trump is in the field, then he has no shot.
The polling data that's coming out, though, is showing that that's not working. I mean, I think I saw in a recent poll that Vivek Ramaswamy, he's a former tech CEO, he's actually now neck and neck in that poll with DeSantis. Chris Christie is actually starting to gain some traction. So, I mean,
what a strange world,
right?
Like,
I know.
Like I just it's just strange to me. I'm sorry. Like I mean the thing about Chris Christie is just the lack of leadership shown throughout his tenure as both as governor of New Jersey, and then also like after he left being the governor, like all the things, and he is, a front runner in this party.
I maintain there's still a long way to go until November of 2024, and while it may be easy to write off DeSantis right now, I wouldn't do that, especially if Trump runs into some landmines.
Yeah. So Sheriff T.K. Waters held his first town hall meeting Wednesday to discuss the revamped patrol zones and new programs and other issues. Ben, let's start with you. How did the town hall go? What do you think of these initiatives?
Well, I think first and foremost, it almost appeared like it was Mayor Waters. Donna Deegan had her event on Monday, and then T.K. Waters had his event on Wednesday. I was surprised. I mean, it was a performance. It was, like a concert almost. It actually kind of was a concert. They had music and everything. They unveiled new cars and new initiatives. So I thought it was kind of him staking out his ground. It was him justifying his nearly $600 million budget. How it's going to be used. If anyone wants to question it, they can come to him and he'll tell them how it should go. One of the things that stood out to me was the video surveillance that he's allowing people to be able to sign up for, which is interesting because what are you signing up for? And I don't know what the details are yet. And there's, of course, a number of privacy issues, how that video would be used, who would have access to it. Is it going to be sold off? I mean, like, for example, if you get a speeding ticket, all of a sudden that information is sold off and you get information in the mail for attorneys or whatever it may be. Right now, there's just a lot of unanswered questions about how that would be used. Is it audio and video? So if you're on your front lawn, could they tap into what you're talking about? Again, if this is video, they have to ask permission to get from you, but still there opens up a lot of questions.
We've got a tweet from Kelly Frazier, Ben Frazier's daughter. She said Sheriff Waters did not hold a town hall last night. It was an overblown commercial for the JSO with only 19 minutes of Q&A. Waters claimed he has data indicating that 216 new JSO officers are needed, and we will look forward to him sharing that data.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. This whole issue with the budget. First of all, Sheriff Waters has got to be doing a dance, right? Doing a jig right now because he got everything he wanted for the most part. He got his budget, and good for him. We'll see where it goes. I mean, again, this whole issue though with funding the sheriff's budget has been something that's gone on year after year after year after year, and it always amazes me why. Again, this is a relic of consolidated government. It's the fact that when we consolidated, we got rid of the municipal police force and gave the policing power to the constitutional office of the sheriff. Well, back in the day, the mayor, the chief of police, reported to the mayor. Now you got a situation where the budget still goes through the mayor, but the sheriff is a constitutional officer who arguably, if he doesn't get everything he wants, can go to the legislature, right? And I've seen that happen in other counties. But so why don't we just carve out a certain percentage of the millage rate, give it to the sheriff, say this is what you're going to operate off. You go negotiate your own budget. You go take care of your own budget. Take it away from the city council, or maybe take it out of the mayor's purview, but give it to the council for review.
Well, and I think they basically have done that at the state level. The state has said, the sheriff, once the sheriff receives the money, he can do whatever he wants to with that money. The mayor has no control over the money after that point.
What's interesting to me is that, and this is not Jacksonville specific. This is like nationwide. Sheriffs, police officers, and departments ask for more money continually. A lot of times they get more money, but the crime rate, we don't see any change in the crime rate. Like, it doesn't go up, it doesn't go down based on it. The two numbers don't correlate. And I guess what I'm trying to wrap my head around is, Jacksonville, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe right now Jacksonville is the murder capital of Florida. It's high up. It's high up in the numbers, and it's been that way for a long time. And we've had increases, but we don't see that number decrease. And what that tells me is maybe we should be thinking about other places to put money in to help decrease the crime. It's not about like defunding the police, but it's thinking about like where that money is better spent while supporting, the police officers.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, right on the money. Literally, that's my pun for the day. Because every other business, if you look at it from a business perspective, there's a performance component to it, right? So why wouldn't a percentage of the budget be a performance budget? In other words, if you reduce crime, then you receive X amount of dollars. But you keep throwing money at it and expecting a problem to go away without dealing with police are reactive. That's a reaction to a problem. So you have to address the problem first, right? So more programs for kids. I mean, and I think Mayor Deegan understands that. I mean, that's why she's looking at Jacksonville Journey and Kids Hope Alliance and trying to make sure that those programs are properly funded and make a difference.
I also think, though, there needs to be buy-in on that from our police departments and our sheriff departments. I mean, they have to not only have an active role in it, but the community needs to see that. Look, we're the ones that are doing these crime reduction initiatives, trying to get on the ground, work with kids, preventative initiatives, because I think that also helps establish trust. But if you historically, if you look at these at budgets, at sheriff's office, I mean, the majority of the money does go to patrol enforcement. It's very expensive to continue to have a vehicle and equipment rotation in a sheriff's office because in Duval County, when you have such a large footprint, it becomes even more costly. But there is a disparity in the budget between preventative programming and reactive enforcement.
It's interesting. It's very easy to arrest someone, but it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more time. It's a time investment of time and capital to prevent the arrest. Shout out to John Payton when we passed the Jacksonville Journey. That what he was pushing for at that time was a dedicated millage percentage, one mill to go to the programs to fund that. And I remember the debates. It's not what happens. It's what happens to these kids who are coming out and getting involved in gangs and stuff. What happens between 3 and 7? They've got nowhere to go once school comes out. So these literacy programs that Donna's bringing back, wonderful. Jacksonville Journey, bringing it back. But again, because we're subject to the ebb and flow of politics in the city, what you do one budget cycle may be gone the next budget cycle. So there's no consistency. So to the extent that we were actually making progress as a community, we lost all of that. So it's time to bring it back.
And there's also the question of, should we have civil citations for adults? Mm-hmm. We have them for children, but not for adults, and that would help keep fewer people out of jail. And then because otherwise you go to jail, then that of course puts a mark on you and makes it difficult for you to go forward with whatever that crime may have been when maybe you shouldn't have been arrested.
And I think what gets lost in a lot of this is that a lot of the crimes that we see are crimes of poverty. And when you are living in poverty or even just above the poverty line, like a simple thing like a ticket can turn into like you losing your license, can turn into you going to jail, can turn into you losing your job, can turn into you need to do other things in order to pay the bills because all the proper, quote unquote, proper ways of doing it have been taken from you just from like one single ticket. And if you think about that in a city as big as Jacksonville and the gulf between the haves and the have-nots, like, it's no wonder why we're seeing the type of numbers that we're seeing.
Well, and I think it's also an issue of addiction, you
Yeah.
know, and I think every home, no matter what level of economic, level they are, has been touched by that.
Yep.
So it is, I'm a Republican. It's extremely costly to imprison someone.
Yep.
And there's so many different and better ways, and especially in the addiction arena, where we can not only save lives, but save significant amount of money.
It seems, though, that we are asking police officers to do everything.
We are. The jail is the number one provider for mental health services.
Right. So if police officers are having to provide mental health counseling and helping people in a mental health crisis, which, I'm sure they receive a little bit of training, but they're not trained to actually defuse these situations. If we are asking police officers to deal with addiction issues, if we are asking police officers to deal with homelessness, it feels like it's both unfair to the people of Jacksonville and unfair to the police department to ask them to carry that kind of weight.
That's a great point, Al. It really is. I remember when John Rutherford was sheriff, he used to say it all the time. He used, Jack, this is what my budget's going for, because we argue about his budget all the time. This is what it's going for. You realize, like Randy just said, I am the largest provider of healthcare services to the community, to the entire city of Jacksonville. So, but you're right. Great point.
All right, so we are going to go to the lightning round. Ooh, I love it when a plan comes together. Thank you, sir. All right, so we will start off. Randy, what you got?
So the Jacksonville Historic Society, as everyone I hope knows, is starting a music museum, and their first event, the first museum, they're doing pop-ups all around the city so people can become aware of it, is at the Beach Museum. So go out and see the music event at the Beach Museum.
Excellent. Ben?
Hey, it's a big weekend, and I understand there's a certain movie coming out. I've heard.
What movie is that?
I don't know. It's Cindy or no,
Yeah.
Barbie.
Barbie?
Barbie, yeah.
They made
yeah.
a movie about Barbie?
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
I had no idea.
It's PG-13.
What?
Questions there.
Yes. Jack, what you got for me?
I want to give a shout out to retired Marine Colonel Len Loving, who is the current and only chairperson, chair, president, CEO of the 5-Star Veteran Center on his 85th birthday yesterday.
Nice. Happy birthday. Mike?
So at the Jack's Daily Record, we reported this week that the city is actually looking for advertising for a new planning and development director. The current director's been there for throughout the Curry administration, and I mentioned earlier that there's over $21 million for permitting changes. That person will oversee that, as well as resiliency issues for the city. So whoever ends up in that role is going to have a big job ahead of them.
I think Randy should apply. What do you think?
Yeah, I think.
Come on, Randy.
we're gonna draft you, Randy.
Number one draft pick.
Randy's eyes got big, like no. Randy DeFore, Mike Mendenhall, Ben Becker, and Jack Webb, my panelists for today. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Northeast Florida artists are making noise that's reverberating across the country, and the Jacksonville Music Experience is your ticket to the local scene. Music reviews, curated playlists, music history, concert recommendations, and profiles of local artists, all put together by our team of local contributors. The Jacksonville Music Experience plays it local and plays it loud. Visit jacksmusic.org to read and hear more.
Listeners with blindness or low vision can open up the local paper Sunday through Friday mornings at 9 with WJCT's radio reading service. That's where you can hear what's in the Florida Times-Union. Radio Reading Service volunteers read an hour of news, op-eds, even comics. Listen on Amazon Echo, Google Home, or on your smartphone using the WJCT mobile app, and get the whole day's listening schedule at wjct.org/radio reading.
It's March of 1863, and Jacksonville is occupied by black Union troops.
That little window of time has paid big dividends in the history of not only Jacksonville, but America.
3 weeks in Jacksonville that changed the Civil War. Hear the full story come to life on Bygone Jacks, Our Unsung History, a podcast from WJCT Public Media. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
Join me, Dr. Joe Servin, for What's Health Got to Do with It, a weekly program that examines where and how healthcare intersects with your daily life. Saturdays at 4 p.m. and Sundays at 9 p.m. on WJCT News 89.9.
For the best music from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, tune in to 89.9 HD3, the WJCT app, or jacksmusic.org. We've got your music on Anthology on 89.9 HD3.
Hi, it's Ari Shapiro. On All Things Considered, we bring you stories that are interesting but not predictable.
Scientists have recorded a song made by a volcano.
One man has found solace tending to his pigeons.
One of the things I love about ice cream is it's never a bad time for it.
Listen to All Things Considered from NPR every afternoon.
Starting at 4 on WJCT News 89.9.
Classical 24 brings listeners beautiful music from around the world, featuring the best of classical music from the all-time greats to the newest composers and performances. Download the WJCT app or visit wjct.org/jacksmusic to start listening today.
This week on Science Friday, the blockbuster Oppenheimer is finally out, and we're revisiting nuclear history and hearing from the people most affected by Oppenheimer's work.
We sat on the hilltop and watched all night entire city burn. That was the so-called cremation of my dear people.
That's on Science Friday from WNYC Studios.
This afternoon at 3 here on WJCT News 89.9.
Delivered this week, 1 target letter and record-breaking triple-digit temperatures. Also, a well-funded push for a third-party candidate and 16 fake electors charged in Michigan for trying to overturn the last presidential election.
They weren't the duly elected and qualified electors, and each of the defendants knew it.
It's the Friday News Roundup, next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Hey, welcome back. This is First Coast Connect. I'm Al Letson, sitting in the big chair. And a proposal to pursue a potential 15-field sportsplex. Let me say that again. Sportsplex. That's a new word. Tony, you put
yes,
in
we're
these
coining terms, Al.
in North St. Johns County. It just got a green light this week from the county commissioner. Jack's USL has proposed a public-private partnership with St. Johns County as it seeks to bring a professional United Soccer League franchise to Northeast Florida. And my good friend, who I've not seen in forever, Tony Allegretti of Jack's USL, is here now with the details. Tony, my man.
Yes, sir.
How you been?
I've been awesome, man. And you have too. You know, you're an international celebrity. And
I don't know about that.
We are so fortunate to have you back in Jax for some amount of time, and so really blessed to see you again. So happy about that.
Dear listener, before he came on, I slipped him $100 bill. So, Sportsplex. Explain?
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
So we've been working for a couple of years actually with St. Johns County, and we have been working on a public-private partnership to bring more fields. There's unmet demand for recreation space and soccer space, but all kinds of sports spaces for kids right now, and it's an acute need in St. Johns County, especially North St. Johns. And so the idea was to come up with a way that we could have a training facility for our men's and women's pro soccer team, which we hope can kick off in late 25 or early 26. And that would give us a training grounds, but also create some soccer fields for our youth in the area to grow up and play. And eventually, right now, if you're really good at soccer, which we have a tremendous amount of very good young kids playing, you got to move if you want to play pro. And so we're hoping to fix that. And this is a good step in the right direction. It was a unanimous vote from the St. Johns County Commissioners, who we loved and we love working with. But it's really just to pursue the deal. So there's some milestones that we have to do. But now we've gotten the approval for them for the staff in St. Johns County to help us and to work on it and do all the development stuff.
Yeah. So tell me about the economic impact.
Yeah, so the economic impact is really tremendous, and it's mostly around soccer tournaments. So if you're a lot of parents are probably nodding their head right now. They've got to go to travel soccer or travel baseball or travel, sports, and we don't have a lot of facilities like that. So we do have good tournaments here in Jacksonville in the area, but the big ones, the big regional tournaments that have regional impact, are driving right past Jacksonville to go to Atlanta or Orlando. This allows us to do a lot of tournaments. The early numbers on economic impact is about 150 million over 10 years. So it's 15 to 20 million. Those numbers are probably improving now, and it's about 1,400 jobs. So, and that's over 10 years too. So it's about 140, 150 jobs too that it'll create.
Yeah, I was just about to ask. So what's the whole timeline on this?
Yeah. So if everything happens in a perfect world, this facility can open sometime in 2025. And that would be really fortunate for a lot of different reasons, but it would allow us to get some on the field work with our technical side, which is the soccer side, while we work on the stadium and the actual showcase place. This is not the stadium site that we're also working on in parallel.
So I think of you as Jacksonville's soccer ambassador, and I know nothing at all about soccer.
Yeah.
I know that Shad Khan owns a team.
Yes.
And so would the team that you're bringing here, would that be in the same league? Like, how does that work?
No, that great question. Shad's team is in the sort of biggest, most famous league. That's the Premier League in the UK. His team is doing great. In fact, they're mid-table, which is really kind of good for it's not a huge club, but it's outperforming. Jacksonville hasn't had a pro soccer team since the Armada has gone to NPSL. They're playing really well. The Armada's still a thing. We're really hopeful, and I know all the Armada fans are really hopeful that they'll come back in a pro capacity, and we feel like they will. The soccer market and all the research that they've done and that we've done really shows that there's enough soccer fans. There's like 300,000 soccer fans in our market. And so thank you for, thinking of me as an ambassador to that, but I'm just one, real zealot for it.
I'm just calling you the ambassador because I want to go to a game with you.
Yeah, of course, man.
Like,
Yeah,
I want tickets, man.
Yeah, we'll be behind the goal for sure.
All right. Tony Allegretti, my friend and the soccer ambassador. I'm literally giving you that title, the soccer ambassador of Jacksonville. Thank you so much for coming in and talking to me.
Appreciate you, Al.
And that's our program, ladies and gentlemen. But before we go, we have some sad news. It's just reported to me that Tony Bennett passed away at the age of 96. So in honor of Mr. Bennett's passing, we're going to go out with a song with him and Lady Gaga. Listen, you all have a good weekend. Take care of yourselves. Keep your heart open for Duval and each other. And I'll talk to you next week.
Anything goes. The world has gone mad today, and good's bad today. And there's night today, and black's white today. And most guys today, the woman cries today. Oh, they're just silly gigolos. And though I'm not a great romancer, I know you're bound to answer when we propose. Anything goes. Go. Bad today, and days nights today, and black's white today, and most guys today, the women prize today. You're just silly gigolos. And though we're not such great romancers, we know that you're bound to answer when we propose. Anything goes. Anything goes. Anything goes. Anything goes.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided by